Hey y'all, it's Jenna Pecor here with Bancroft Realty in Grand Prairie. And I have been a realtor since 2014 and started doing estate sales in 2015. And I have been working with seniors to downsize and liquidate the contents of their home for since 2015. And so seniors are really my dog is right beneath me. Trying to get attention, so she's moving the table. I see, but I've been working with seniors that long because I'm very passionate about this particular time of life. And so it's been an honor for me to get to help seniors transition either to downsize or help their families liquidate the contents of their home after they pass. And for the last year, I have had the honor of working for an assisted living community, which gave me a totally different overview of when someone downsizes from their home because they want to go into some type of senior housing or some type of other option. Where do they go and how does it work? And so it gave me a really, really great overview of how this works. It's a very confusing industry for a lot of people because, well, for one main reason, everything is called senior housing, or you'll see something like senior apartments or senior living, and it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? What do you do? And so, and what is a senior? So we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit today. So there is a special type of housing that is allowed to be over 55. There are that is allowed to basically say we only allow people over 55 to live here. And so, and then some of them are even over 62. So when I talk about seniors, um, that's what I'm talking about is people over the age of 55 that would want to live in a special type of place with only people over the age of 55. So this is going to be a video that's going to talk about the different types of senior housing within the industry, so that people might be able, if you're thinking about downsizing, then this might be a good place to start. So I have specifically worked in Grand Prairie. I've grown up in Grand Prairie, so I know in my city what the different options are, and so that kind of starts. The first point that I'll make is, how do you even find out what places are senior housing? And so that's where A Place for Mom kind of saw a hole whenever they started their business, however long ago, because you don't even know how to search for it online. I don't know how many people that I would talk to as the marketing person that didn't know what they were even calling for. That I don't even think that maybe they thought they were calling for one thing, but they're calling for something else. And so A Place for Mom basically said, well, we can have all the people that provide any type of senior housing, we can be the database and the search engine for that. Well, the hard part about that is because the business model that they're in is that now they've got all these senior housing places. Basically, they've become so big that they have to pay to be a part of that service, and then what you they so basically, if someone calls and says, I want to find senior housing in, we want to stay around Grand Prairie, Arlington, and Mansfield, this person that's on the other side creates like a search, some type of search for them. And that person that's doing that might live in New York and is doing it for anybody that calls. So they're going to go into their database and they're going to send you everything that they feel like would match what you're looking for. And so then the person that is trying to find the senior housing gets like 30 calls every single day from all these different places that are trying to get them to come move in, and that can be overwhelming as well. And so why I mentioned why I live and grow up in Grand Prairie is I can speak very well to the places that are in Grand Prairie. So if someone's coming along and says, Jenna, we're trying to find a place for mom, where would be the best place for her to go? Then I have the ability to be able to say, I know where all these places are in Grand Prairie. I can kind of help you, kind of guide you in the right direction because I have that personal experience. And so that is the first thing that I would tell people is, instead of calling A Place for Mom where you're just going to get bombarded with all these different types of calls, um, call a local real estate agent, or call your senior, like a senior pastor at your church, because they're gonna know a little bit more about all the different places that seniors could live. they're at least going to know where they are and what they're called. They might not know what they provide inside, but at least that way you're hearing from people that actually either have helped people find a place or know people that live there, especially with churches. Because if you go to a church, I know my church, they have a prayer, every single week they send out like a prayer bulletin of all the different people. And one of the things they do specifically is they send out a prayer bulletin for our seniors. And they have all the different places listed where all their seniors live, like if they're a facility or a nursing home or something like that. And it also enables people to go visit. If they wanted to go visit them, they would know where people were. So that's a really good place to start. So let's talk about all the different kinds of places. First of all, one of one of the main misconceptions that I think people have is that any place that's senior living is also a nursing home. And this is just not true. This was the case in the 80s. And back whenever I was a kid and we'd go visit grandma, my grandmother lived in a nursing home. There's a fly in here. And so we went to the nursing home. There was probably only one or two nursing homes in the area at the time. That's usually how it was. And that's just kind of where you went. And you went there to convalesce because you had gotten to a place where you couldn't take care of yourself. Most of the time, you couldn't get out of bed. And it was very depressing. And you'd walk in, and there'd be people in wheelchairs that weren't moving. And it's very intimidating. And that is still the stigma that the senior living industry has a lot of the time, which breaks my heart because it's not like that anymore. Um, and so that is number one. Senior living does not equate to nursing homes. There are nursing homes, but now they're called skilled nursing. And I'm going to explain all the differences of what that means. So let's kind of start as we progress, with like the different, how the different types of senior housing progress. So to start with, you have communities or apartments. It could be communities of buildings or condos or apartments, some type of group of houses or homes where people over 55 can live. And it's just over 55 housing. So basically, it's just saying we don't accept anybody that's under 55. But if you live here, you're taking care of yourself. There's not going to be any meals provided. It's just a place for people to live. And usually it has resort-like features or really, really upscale apartment features. There's going to be a pool usually. They're going to have a really cool like clubhouse, maybe a kitchen or some type of coffee bar. They'll have maybe a workout room where they have maybe somebody that comes in and maybe does like some different kinds of aerobics classes. And I've even seen a lot of them now that actually do have activities directors. They might not have activities every day all the time, but they will have some. And they have a lot of social activities. They take trips and go places. And basically, you're just in a community with people your own age and people that are in the time of life that you're in. And they just don't want to have to deal with the yard anymore. Like if you move into like a over 55 community of houses that are built for that reason, usually you'd have an HOA that would take care of common areas and yards and things like that. And if you move into an apartment, you don't even have a yard that you have to take care of anymore. You have somebody that comes in and helps you with the maintenance, so you don't have to worry about your water heater or your air conditioner. You don't have that kind of home ownership responsibility. And that's what a lot of people at that point are trying to get rid of. They don't want to go to a place where they feel like it's too far beyond their age, where people are too much older, or it's not even just the age. It's like where everybody's at physically. How active are you? Because that's really what that's going to be. People that are going into over 55 communities are still very active. They still go on trips. They still go visit grandkids. They still have grandkids come visit them. But they just don't want to live in an apartment with other, with, 21-year-old college kids that are going to be throwing parties all night long. And so that's why they move into those places. Usually, well, sometimes you might see a sign that says over 55 community, and they'll indicate that it is over 55. But if you do see senior living, then a lot of times that's going to indicate the next level up, which is going to be independent living. And so independent living is going to still provide, and over 55 and independent living can kind of be interchangeable, but independent living is going to start indicating that you are a senior that is kind of progressed to the next level. So you're still going to have your full apartment. You're still going to be able to you're still taking care of yourself. They don't have nurses or anything like that, but maybe they have somebody that comes in and does your laundry. Or maybe they do provide some meals. Maybe they provide breakfast in the morning or dinner at night. They're going to provide more activities. And it's going to be people that are not as active as someone that's in their 50s. Maybe they're in their late 60s, early 70s. And again, they're not ready for assisted living, but they just want something with a little bit more help. Um, and so that's going to be your independent living. Then you're going to move into assisted living. And assisted living is going to indicate that you need some type of assistance with your daily activities and your tasks every day. Assisted living is not getting nursing. It is not, usually assisted living places don't, their staff is not nurses. Maybe they'll have one nurse that's in charge, or maybe a couple of them will be RNs, but they're really more like aides. And so this is going to be, they're all going to do their laundry. All assisted livings provide laundry services. The state of Texas, and you have to be licensed once you start getting past the independent living. You do have to be licensed in the state of Texas to be an assisted living community. So part of the requirement is that they provide laundry service every week, in some form or fashion. Usually it'll be, I think the minimum is that they have to provide laundry for your bed linens. But a lot of places now, to be competitive, will just do all the residents' laundry once a week usually. So that is one type of assistance. You just don't want to have to bend over, put laundry and this and that, because you're at a point where either you've fallen a lot, or you're about to fall, or you feel dizzy, or your back is hurt, you had a hip replacement, or some kind of something that is that kind of moving that loads and things like that might be too much for you. Now, that doesn't mean that in an assisted living place you can't still do your own laundry. It just means that they provide that as part of what you pay to live there. Um, and so another type of assistance would be dining. So assisted living, they are going to have 3 full meals 7 days a week, because they have a kitchen and a usually a chef, or um, a cook or somebody that's in charge of the menu. And so that is one less thing that you as a resident have to do for yourself, is cook. So an assisted living community, those apartments are usually going to have no laundry room, and the kitchens are going to be more like kitchenettes and not full kitchens, because you're not needing a range and a stove because you're not cooking full meals. They'll usually have a microwave, and either like a mini fridge with a freezer in it, or a full size freezer or fridge, and a sink. It'll look like a kitchen, but it won't have the stove, the dishwasher, that kind of thing, because you don't need it, because you have somebody that's doing that for you. And you don't have the laundry room. So if you go from an independent living community to an assisted living community, the independent living is going to be probably bigger square footage, because you have more rooms and your kitchen's going to be larger. So you're going to go down in size, square footage wise, which that's a hang up for people too, because they just feel like it's too small, but they don't realize that you don't there's it's smaller because you don't have to have as much stuff. um so assisted living people, you also usually have like some type of pendant or an alert system that alerts the staff if you need some type of help. Like, let's say that you need help uh, getting yourself from your room to the dining room because you just got back from the hospital and you're in a wheelchair temporarily, or if you're in a wheelchair for time. Um, they help, and they always have activities, usually from about 9 o'clock in the morning after breakfast ends to when dinner starts. It's 5 days a week, at least. And so it'll be a full activity schedule. Most of those, they'll have an activity director, and that's what they do. But it's still very active. You can still live there and be very active. The type of person that we had a range at the assisted living that I was at. There were some people that were still very independent and could get around. They could walk around. They were doing a lot of things for themselves, but maybe they had gotten a little older and they lived by themselves, and they were afraid that if something were to happen, somebody wouldn't get there in time. That was a fear that a lot of people had, actually, was living alone. Maybe their husband or wife had passed away, and now something was going to happen, and nobody was going to be there to take care of it. Being falling in your house or in your bathroom or somewhere like that, and then sitting there and laying there for hours, is a fear that a lot of people have, and it's for good reason because it happens. So we did have a lot of people that lived there that maybe didn't need any type of assistance, but knew that they were susceptible or vulnerable because their body was starting to wear a little bit, and they were having a little bit more trouble getting around. And so they just wanted to have somebody there available 24 hours a day. At an independent living community, you do not have that staff that's available 24 hours a day because they assume to live there, you have to be able to take care of yourself. Um, so then from an assisted living community, at that point, then we go to memory care. And memory care is going to be for people with cognitive disabilities, like dementia and Alzheimer's, and sometimes Parkinson's was a place, they had more of a need, physically, and they had different types of needs, and because they had issues that some of them might not know exactly where they were, and so that's going to be a place that you're going to go to for that. And a lot of times assisted livings also have a memory care, not always, but usually what it'll do is there'll be an assisted living on one side, and then there's a memory care on the other side, and the memory care is a locked unit. And all that means is that they can come and go as they please. They're not kept there as prisoners, but the door does close because they have a vulnerability to wandering out and not knowing where to get back. So a lot of times when you see like a blue alert and you see that there's a senior that has gone missing, it's because they have dementia or some type of cognitive inability to know where they are and where they're going. They don't, so they have those locked units. There are some places I've seen that are just memory care, not often, but some. And the reason that they have them together like that is, well, we'll talk about the types in a second. So in a and the other thing about assisted living is, depending on the type of license that they have, they're not going to check on you during the evening. There's going to be someone there during the evening, but they're not coming into your room after a certain time to check on you and make sure that everything's okay. And if that is something that you need somebody to check on you frequently and on an ongoing basis, then that's where memory care comes in. Because according to the state of Texas, at least, memory care residents must be checked on every 2 hours. Now, a family member can request, like if you have somebody in there that's sleeping really well and they're not having many issues, then they can say, just, we don't need you waking them up every 2 hours and messing around, just don't do that. And they'll say, okay. But they do have a full staff overnight. And the reason that they check on memory cares so frequently is that's when falls happen the most. And when I did work at I worked in a assisted living and memory care, and I don't want people to feel like memory care is sad. I actually really, really enjoyed working in the memory care, more than I thought I would, honestly. And so, but the falls happen in the evening, and a lot of times is you have residents who aren't sure what year they're in. They don't know what their current physical limitations have become, and they don't know where they're at. So they'll wake up thinking, my body is fine. My bathroom's right around the corner because in their mind they're at home or maybe a house that they lived in before, and it's dark and they don't know where they're at, and so they'll get up and forget that they need a walker to move around, or forget where their bathroom is and get discombobulated. And so that is one of the biggest concerns, is in the evening time. And so that's why in memory care, the staff is going to be checking on them more frequently. It's also why memory care is a little bit more expensive, because you do have more staff there, and their activities are going to be geared very much towards people that have dementia. And so it there's not going to be it's just going to be a different um, modification for some of the activities, because the staff has to be way more involved with their activities to be able to help them. um, and so, but activities are great, and I could talk about that in a whole different video. But so then let's say that but in memory care, for the most part, people are still getting up and around somewhat reasonably. They're not bedridden, or they don't have a medical requirement that they need constant nursing care. And so that's when skilled nursing comes into play. So if you're going to call anything a nursing home, skilled nursing is what you're really talking about. Skilled nursing is going to be, all the staff is generally nurses. They're generally RNs, um, and the people that are there, either that have to stay there, either can't get out of bed hardly at all, um, or they need some type of medical assistance all the time. And so some type of condition that requires that. It's basically, it's just more than I'm helping you with your everyday activity. I'm helping you with your everyday tasks. It's beyond that point. Now, a lot of times there'll be a skilled nursing, and then they'll have a rehabilitation side. That's how they've done it for a really long time. So skilled nursing can either be long-term stay or short-term stay, just depending on the side that you're in. Um, Up until recently, there from what I understand, up until the last few years, um, rehab, the only place that you could go to, like if you were coming out of the hospital and you needed to go to rehab because you had an injury, you hurt your shoulder and you needed to work your whatever, you need to work with a physical therapist and you needed to go to like an inpatient rehab, it was going to be to a skilled nursing community. Skilled nursing communities are also generally Medicaid. They generally accept Medicaid. There's not a lot of private pay um, skilled nursing communities. There might be some, but for the most part, they're not. And so that's why if you go into a skilled nursing, some of them have really kept buildings up well, but they don't have as much money to play around with. And so what'll happen is hospitals will release patients into skilled nursing facilities to do rehab, and then that's where they get to see that this is like a nursing home. And there's a lot we could do a whole separate video about patient options when it comes to rehabs and all the different kinds of inpatient rehabs they have now that are just amazingly nice and wonderful, but that's a different video altogether. So um, that's going to be the basics of like what each of these types of communities or facilities are going to provide and what they're going to offer. So let's talk about cost for a minute, and how much each of these are going to cost. So an over 55 apartment is, or a home is going to be pretty much what a regular home or apartment is going to cost in that area. There's not really anything special. It might be a little bit more expensive because the amenities might be a little bit nicer than a regular apartment, but for the most part it's going to be pretty similar. You still pay for all of your own utilities and bills, and so it's gonna be right in line with that. In an independent living community, it's still going to be pretty cost effective for the most part. There might be a little bit more because, again, you might have a little bit more enhanced activities, or they might offer some services like laundry or something like that. And so you're living, um, that you're kind of paying for that. And some independent living communities actually do pay for some of your utilities, like maybe cable or electricity, but not all. So that might just be like a benefit of living there, is that you get your electricity paid for or your cable paid for. And so it might be just a little bit more expensive, but it includes more. In an assisted living community, generally speaking, it's going to be, all of your bills are going to be paid. Well, not generally speaking. For the most, I mean, I can say that that's pretty much true for all of them. You're not going to have an electric bill or a water bill or a gas bill or a cable bill. They usually all provide cable also. You're also not going to have a laundry bill or um, let's see what else. A lot of them provide transportation, so they'll have a shuttle or something that you can go back and forth to doctor's appointments. And so they are going to be a little bit more expensive, but you also, when we used to compare prices, especially with electricity and water being as high as it can go up to, it could be less, because you also don't have to pay for any type of like homeowners insurance. You do have to pay for renters insurance generally at all these places, but that's very minimal. But the cost can sometimes, and it depends on what kind of community it is. What are they providing? How many amenities are there? That kind of thing. So the cost is going to fluctuate depending on that. And with assisted living, you do uh, generally have a level of care that comes with that, because people that live there are on some type of on some type of spectrum about how much physical needs they have and how much intervention they need with their daily activities. So let's say that you moved in and you don't need any type of help. Your laundry being included, your meals being provided, all of that is going to be a part of what you pay for rent. But maybe you don't need any type of level of care. Maybe you're getting around just fine. But let's say that you go to the hospital and you need for 30 days, or a couple months after your surgery, you're going to need a little bit more assistance from the staff. At that point, then you could go up to maybe like the first level of care that they provide. Maybe they come in and help you shower a couple times a week. Maybe they need to come in and help you go to the bathroom, some stuff like that. But it could also go back down if you get better and you don't need it, which did happen frequently. Um, so when it comes to memory care, a lot of them are all inclusive, meaning that all the care that you could get is included in the price that you pay. So memory cares are generally going to be more expensive, I'll be honest. And they also are not going to have a kitchenette at all, because there's no reason to have a kitchenette at all. But what you're paying for at a place like a memory care is going to be the care and the activities that you're going to get. Should be the care and activities that you should get. That's the trick right there. Should be. Um, and then in skilled nursing, a lot of times that's Medicaid, and they accept Medicaid. So almost all of these places, it depends on the kind of type of financing that they take, but most all the places from over 55 up to memory care are going to be private pay, and that just means that the resident is responsible for paying their own rent every month. Medicaid is a state provided service that you have to qualify for if you're over the age of 55. Medicaid, it's not Medicare. Medicaid and Medicare are different. Medicaid does provide health care also, but there is a special type of financing that you can get for housing. It's not much, and you do have to find facilities that are Medicaid. Medicaid, they accept it, and there's not a lot of them either. So that's going to be the tricky part about Medicaid. And I'm going to have to do a whole nother video about people that are fearful of selling their house because they won't qualify for Medicaid. That seems to be something I ran across frequently. So we're going to talk about that too, because I think that that's a good topic for a lot of people. Um, and so skilled nursing communities usually will try to get you onto Medicaid if you don't have any money to pay for them, so that you can at least have state funding. Skilled nursing, a lot of the time, will have you share a room because of that. And so might not be private, but it is an option for people that just don't have the finances or the retirement or the equity from a home to pay for their stay. And so, but all of these places generally, any place from assisted living and up is going to accept VA benefits for housing. And there's a lot more people that qualify than actually take advantage of this. If you served during certain periods of wartime, then you would qualify for VA benefits for yourself and your spouse if you're married. If you are the spouse of a veteran, and that has passed away while y'all were still married, then you can qualify as a surviving spouse, or you can just qualify for yourself if you're not married. And that's a pretty substantial chunk of what would go towards paying for your assisted living or your memory care or your nursing care. So those are the different types of options. Now, which one is going to be the right one for you? These are the things that you're going to have to visit these places and kind of see what they provide and which one's going to meet your needs or one of your parents' needs the best. And we could do a different video about like what kind of questions are good questions for when you go in to interview these places. What are some things to look for? But really, you just kind of want to stick close to your area. And a lot of people don't know what all their options are. So a place for mom is good for that reason. But just know that you're going to get tons of calls. Usually, there are people and services that do placement, and maybe we should go, maybe I should do a video going through that. But what they do is they actually are one-on-one. It's kind of like a realtor, but for senior housing. And they will go with you to some of these places so that they'll go in with and be your advocate, which I think is great. And then the facility itself will pay for them in terms of like a referral or just a fee split for bringing you, bringing you and your family in. Um, and so this another option that we're seeing a lot since, especially since COVID, which I predicted this was going to happen, by the way, is home nursing and home care facilities. And basically, it's a lot of it is like nurses that just decided they don't get paid enough to do some of this job. So, and they have their home, and maybe they're like, empty nesters, and they have a house that they somebody could live in. And so they just have people that come and pay them for a room, and they live there and they take care of them while they're there. So, and this is definitely a growing option in popularity um, because it eliminates a lot of the concern. COVID is still a concern for a lot of people as far as like, are you going to tell my mom she's not allowed to leave her room? Are you going to quarantine her? Are you going to keep me from seeing her? Like, those are still questions that I would still get even to this day. They shouldn't be, by the way. If they are, then that's a problem. But that's a concern. Another one is places like that have a lot more one-on-one care than you might get at a facility, and they can be cheaper. And you're in one home. It's not a huge place. It's just one home. It's very cozy. This is really, really good for people that have memory care. If you are a person, or if your loved one is showing a lot of signs of aggression, or they've had issues with like temperament in a bigger place, I've seen it where a lot of times they'll go into a smaller place with that right caregiver, and they do a whole lot better. The downside to a place like that is they're not going to offer hardly any activities. They'll maybe play bingo. They'll eat lunch together. Like the nurse will provide all the meals. You're not going to have some of the resources that a bigger place would have, like a shuttle service for doctor's appointments, that kind of thing. You also don't have a big place to wander. A lot of people really like the ability to walk around a big building. We had people that would walk every day. I mean, there's one lady that I swear she walked 3 to 4 miles a day, and she would walk either around the building if it was a nice day. She'd walk in the building. She just liked having that a space to do that. And those smaller, in-home um, care providers just don't have that. But maybe they all go as a group to walk around or things like that. So there's pros and cons to all the different options, but that is an option. Another option that is becoming well, and another thing that a lot of people are seeing is that if you are a veteran or you do get those types of housing benefits as an over 55 person that needs assistance, now I believe that insurance will actually pay a caregiver of your own choosing. Like, let's say that your daughter takes care of you, she can actually get paid through your insurance to take care of you in her own home or in your home. And so I started seeing that a lot also, but that's an option. So those are the different types of places that are available for those that are over 55. I certainly would love to have some questions. If y'all have any questions about any of those options, and would you like for me to, maybe go in a couple places and interview some of the people, like some of the marketers, so that they can tell you a little bit more about their facility and what it's like living there? I can do that. I want to serve the senior community as best I can around this time of the transition of downsizing. That is really what my passion is. That's the my niche in real estate. I still perform estate sales for my families that need it. And so I would love to be able to do all those things for you. If you're in or around the Grand Prairie area in Texas and you need somebody to help you list your house, I can do the estate sale also and sell your house as well. And if you are downsizing and you do want to sell, I can certainly help steer you or go with you or kind of help you find a place that would be the best fit for you or your mom or dad. So certainly comment on this video if you found it helpful. Let me know if there's any questions that this video that came to your mind while watching it that maybe I could do another video on that would be more educational in a different type of way. And then like or subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I am going to start doing these videos at least once a week, probably once a week, to give some more information about my particular community and things that are going to help those in my community over 55. And so thank y'all for watching. Have a great day. Bye.